This episode is brought to you by Hatch. Meet Hatch Restore, the all-in-one smart sleep machine that combines a gradual sunrise alarm, gentle wake-up sounds, an ever-growing library of wind-down meditations, and soothing sleep sounds to keep you snoozing all night long. Restore users feel rested and refreshed every morning, even as the days grow shorter. Plus, the Restore is the perfect gift for anyone in your life this holiday season. Shop Hatch Restore this holiday season at Hatch.co.
Here is Oregon, a place to lift and celebrate the very best of Oregon. Thanks to our exclusive auto partner, Subaru, for being a proud supporter. Get the good stuff every day at hereisoregon.com or follow us on your favorite social media platform at hereisoregon. Share the good.
Hello, and welcome back to Peak Northwest. I'm Vicki Connor, and today it is raining pretty hard here. And it has been for the past week or so. The region has been needing it. With forecasts like this ahead, many of us still want to get outside and explore. So last year, Jamie and Jim did an entire episode about one of their favorite rainy day hikes, the Wilson River Trail. I haven't done this one, so I might be adding it to my itinerary for this soggy weekend coming up. I hope you all can still get outside donning your best rain gear. Happy hiking.
Hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Jim Ryan, and together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today, Jamie, I am excited to learn more about a trail that you have spent a heck of a lot of time on lately, and I have wanted to visit for quite some time.
I assume, Jim, you're talking about the classic Wilson River Trail.
Yes, I am. You've been out there, what? Is it 3 or 4 times now recently?
Four times. I've been going every Wednesday for the last 4 weeks.
That is not bad.
I decided to spend the first half of fall exploring the Wilson River Trail because, like you, Jim, it's a place I've always wanted to go to, but I've never taken the opportunity to do so. So this fall, I thought, what a better time to go check out these beautiful riverside forests in the Coast Range than the first half of the season.
Totally. Colors are a changing. Days are getting a little bit more brisk. Maybe there's a little bit more, rain or showers in the air. It's the season maybe to go out and explore a little something different, especially in the Coast Range, known as just a dense, moist, wet place to be. Also a very beautiful place to be as the colors change this time of year.
Absolutely. Well, so for those who aren't familiar with the Wilson River Trail, this is a long-distance hiking trail that is located in Tillamook State Forest, just kind of on the north side of Oregon 6. So that's the highway that runs between Hillsboro and Tillamook. So for those of you who are driving out to the coast on Oregon 6, you might be doing what I did for years, and you just drive right through it, and you pass by all those little trailheads and campgrounds on the side of the road. Well, a lot of those are for the Wilson River Trail, which runs almost 24 miles straight through that section. And there are opportunities galore for day hikes here. We're talking beautiful Coast Range views, some nice little riverside access areas. You have, like you said, Jim, some beautiful deciduous trees that change color in the fall. And even places like the Tillamook Forest Center, which is closed right now, but when it's open, it makes this really cool attraction to check out while you're hiking the trail.
So basically, Jamie, what you're saying is the Wilson River Trail essentially has it all.
Just about, this is also a very, very forested trail. Yeah. So a lot of what you're doing when you're doing these hikes is walking through forest. So if you're someone who needs that constant excitement of a big waterfall or a huge mountain view, this is not your trail. This is more of an opportunity to spend time in this lush, quiet forest setting, which honestly, Jim, this time of year especially, I love that kind of environment.
Especially with what you've been able to do, Jamie, getting out on Wednesdays, when presumably, I haven't talked to you about this specifically, but I can't imagine there's a packed trailhead out there. You are by yourself. You were describing kind of this scene through the woods. It's, kind of the lush, very green, dense area. You've got a little bit of rain coming down. You're hiking in I think you said you had a thermal or a long sleeve shirt on, but no jacket. And it just kind of hits the right notes for this time of year,
Absolutely. And, you mentioned that lack of other people. And that is what I was really, really pleasantly surprised about with this trail. So like I said, I've been going out every Wednesday for the last 4 weeks, and I have seen a grand total of 3 other people on the trail. All of those were on the first day.
Wow. You're not messing around. I mean, that's about as good as it can get. If you're trying to find solitude, that, of course, is about as good as you can get there.
And I mean, we're talking about Wednesdays here in the off season, so take that with a grain of salt. But this is no Angel's Rest. This is no busy hike in the gorge. I talked to the Tillamook State Forest, and they said that the Wilson River Trail is notoriously overlooked. So this is a place where, I mean, unless it blows up all of a sudden because we're talking about it, because I'm writing about it, this is a place where you can go to find a lot more solitude than most other places. And it's so close to the Portland area that you're not driving all day just to get there. Most of these trailheads from my house in North Portland take about an hour to get to. If you live on the west side of town, even better. So these are convenient places to hike. They're beautiful places to hike. And there's a lot of solitude there too. So, I mean, it's really kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, Jamie. And of course, we haven't referenced yet, maybe other than a quick flyby, the opportunity to do a really long hike, make it a backpacking trip, go for a long trail run. Many different options here of how to use this trail. But for the first part of the show, we are going to talk about how to best day hike this trail. And Jamie, you have done now 4 different sections of this trail, if you will. Do you want to start with your favorite? Do you want to start with the back of the pack? What do you think?
Before we get too far into it, one thing we should mention about day hiking this trail is that these are all out and back hikes.
Yeah.
These aren't loops. So that means that what you're effectively doing if you want to day hike the entire Wilson River Trail is you're hiking it twice, both ways. So it takes a 24-mile trail, and what you're really getting in for is 48 miles worth of hiking. So these day hikes, if you're hiking, a 3.5-mile section, that's a 7-mile hike.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't have to be a completionist. You don't have to hike the entire section if you don't want to. And there's plenty of places you can turn around and make shorter hikes. But if you really want to hike the whole Wilson River Trail, it is a bit of an undertaking. So what I decided to do, Jim, when I was looking at doing this whole trail was basically just working my way east to west along the trail. What's cool about this is that there are a lot of different trailheads, one at either end and a few in the middle, that allow you to hike these little sections that are usually somewhere between 3.5 to 6 miles in length. And that's just a great way to go about it, I think, is to just tackle it one at a time. And do that for a few weeks or a couple seasons or a few years or whatever the case may be. And you can really complete this entire trail in, just about 5 or 6 hikes.
Totally. I've been living vicariously through your experience getting out there. As I've probably shared here on the show, recovering from a broken bone in my ankle and a corresponding surgery, and hiking has not been, something I've done a lot of late. And prior to my injury had been lusting over getting out on the Wilson River Trail. So mark my words, Jamie, it's on the list for 2022. It is
Yes.
not on the list these days, though. I'm in good enough shape to do a little bit of hiking these days, but I'm not going to set a whole lot of hiking goals, if you will, at the moment. But anyway, other goals, other things, lots to do. But hiking the Wilson River Trail probably is not going to be part of it for me this fall. But it sounds like it'll be there for me next year.
One of the beautiful things about this trail, Jim, is that there really is something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So for folks who, maybe aren't injured, but who don't want to do any serious hiking, there's places like, so one of my favorite hikes on the Wilson River Trail, and I think one of the most popular ones, is this section between Jones Creek and Footbridge Trailhead. And this is, just a classic Coast Range hike. So the Jones Creek day use area, there's these beautiful picnic tables in the fall foliage right next to the river. And you can hike from there just a pretty short way to the Tillamook Forest Center. And again, the Forest Center is closed right now. It's been closed because of COVID, and they're expecting it to reopen in spring of 2022. But let's just pretend for a moment that it is open, because
why not?
That's typically what it is. You can hike from Jones Creek to Tillamook Forest Center, cross this beautiful bridge over the Wilson River, and check out this really nice interpretive center that teaches you about the forest and the various ways that it is used. From there, you can hike a little bit farther to Wilson Falls, which is not the most impressive waterfall, to be honest, but it is a waterfall that is right in the side of the trail, and that is pretty cool. And go a little bit farther, and you can get to the footbridge, for which the footbridge trailhead is named after, which is a really beautiful section of river, kind of in a rockier canyon, opening up into this riverside area with a little waterfall pouring off of the side of the highway. And it's just a beautiful section to hike. And doing that whole thing is going to run you about 7 or 8 miles.
Okay.
But folks who just want to hike from, say, Jones Creek to the Tillamook Forest Center, that's a quick couple mile hike. And that's a really nice way to get out there and just experience a little slice of it.
Move at your own pace, pack a lunch if you'd like, find a place to stop and rest your legs and maybe enjoy just the tranquility of being out in nature, in a spot that is not, especially on a weekday this time of year, not terribly busy. Sounds mighty nice, Jamie. That's one way to do it, of course, but there are many more. So you've done this 4 times. What's another one of your choices?
One of my favorite spots, and I think the spot that I'll probably go back to more than any others, is this section between Kings Mountain and Diamond Mill. Okay. So Kings Mountain, a lot of people know, is a separate hike that leads up to the top of Kings Mountain. It's a really steep hike.
Super
steep. It is one of the steeper hikes in the area. Like you think Dog Mountain is steep, go hike King Mountain.
Not a place to go hike, let's say after a big rain or something like that. No. Unless you like slip and slides, then perhaps it's your take at the litter there. But no thank you.
Exactly. And so this, instead of going up to Kings Mountain, you can just branch off and go west on the Wilson River Trail. And this takes you on this really lovely hike that kind of goes up onto a bench where you can see some views over the Coast Range through the trees. A bunch of really, really spectacular views. And the trail kind of goes back into the forest. So you're getting off the highway a little bit. You're not hearing that noise coming off from the cars and the trucks going down Oregon 6. And you're just kind of in this beautiful, remote little forest. And after it goes to those views, it kind of runs downhill through this really nice, beautiful, kind of magical forest. And then all of a sudden empties out here at the North Fork Wilson River, and it crosses that river over this really beautiful wooden footbridge. And on the other side, there's a picnic table, and a trail leads down to the side of the river. So it's a perfect spot to end this hike. And I love that. I think it's just a spectacular one. It's a little bit longer. It'll run you about 11.2 miles to do the whole thing out and back. And that's pretty long. But folks who just want to get those nice Coast Range views, that's about halfway into the hike. So you're looking at probably closer to 5 or 6 miles out and back, which is much more doable.
More in my wheelhouse, if you will. Maybe still a hair more than I should pick off, but close. All of this reminds me, Jamie, of just kind of how lucky we are, where, you and I live in Portland, folks living up and down the Willamette Valley or elsewhere in Oregon. I mean, we have the choice of all of these different sceneries that we can go experience within a relatively quick drive. I mean, we're talking here about dense forests, right? But we can go up in the Cascades and get, big mountain views, mountain experiences out to the coast. And of course, enjoy the sand and the beach and the wind and the surf. Head out to the desert and get a completely different experience. And then, of course, the gorge being just another completely different take on being outside in nature. And I don't know. I think the fall and heading into the wintertime is a great time to be in the forest specifically. Yes. Just everything being so green, so lush. I mean, I've used the same words here so many times already on the show, but it really is true. Just how enjoyable it is to go out and, say all summertime you enjoy being up in the Cascades and getting some mountain hikes, or being out in the gorge and getting, high above the Columbia River. Now's the time to mix it up. Go get deep into the forest and enjoy that peacefulness, that calm that comes with immersing yourself among the trees there.
We've talked about rainy day hikes before, and I love going to these lush forests on the rainy days because not just because the thicker canopy will help protect you from the rain a little bit, but also because these are like our Pacific Northwest rainforests. And when you go out and see them in the rain, you're seeing them in their element. You're like watching that moss as it gets fed and watching these big trees as they're getting nourished. It's just such a beautiful experience, and you can really gain a deeper connection with the forest when you're out there and it's actively being nourished. When I was out there in the rain yesterday, Jim, I was feeling nourished too. After this long, dry summer, just being soaked by the rain, it felt so good. And in that way, I felt like I was closer to those plants around me that were also, I'm sure, probably feeling like, oh my God, this is amazing to finally get this rain again.
We're probably all saying it's about darn time.
That's right.
About darn time. Yeah, I guess we did have, I think it was a fairly wet September overall, but after a dry stretch, and it is about time for a little bit of moisture to, re-enter the chat, if you will, as the kids say. The kids may not say that. I don't even know.
I don't know.
Anyway, Jamie, we were not trying to keep up with the kids here on the Peak Northwest podcast. That is not the point. The point is to bring you folks a lot of fun things to do in the outdoors, and the Wilson River Trail is among them. To bring it back home, Jamie, one more. What do you got? One more enjoyable segment of the Wilson River Trail.
All right, this is a good one. We just talked about Kings Mountain to Diamond Mill. This is the other side of that. So this is going from Jones Creek to Diamond Mill. So you have that same nice footbridge over the North Fork Wilson River that ends it. But instead, you're hiking from Jones Creek, which has that nice picnic area I told you about alongside the river. If instead of going towards the Tillamook Forest Center, you go the other way on the trail, it's just a really quick, just about 4-mile hike out and back up to that bridge over the North Fork Wilson River, and back down to Jones Creek. And on the way, you get some, again, really nice dense forest, and you get this really pretty little waterfall that's just on the side of the trail. You kind of have to take a little side trail to crouch down and see it through the trees, but it's a really nice little additional attraction there. So for folks who want just to like dip their toes into that forest, and especially if they want somewhere that's a little bit less crowded than, say, the hike to the Tillamook Forest Center, this little 4-mile out and back from Jones Creek to Diamond Mill, I think, is one of the best you can do in there.
You love to hear it, Jamie. And we should say, too, before moving on, that, like you said, Jamie, folks can pick their own adventure to an extent here. Combine trailheads, go take a look at a larger map of the area, and pick what suits your fancy.
Absolutely.
Well, we are going to talk some more about the Wilson River Trail, but first, we are going to take a short break.
This episode is brought to you by Hatch. Meet Hatch Restore, the all-in-one smart sleep machine that combines a gradual sunrise alarm, gentle wake-up sounds, an ever-growing library of wind-down meditations, and soothing sleep sounds to keep you snoozing all night long. Restore users feel rested and refreshed every morning, even as the days grow shorter. Plus, the Restore is the perfect gift for anyone in your life this holiday season. Shop Hatch Restore this holiday season at Hatch.co.
All right, folks, we are back talking about the glorious Wilson River Trail, which spans almost 24 miles through the Tillamook State Forest, of course, over there in the Coast Range. And Jamie, we have talked a lot about how great this trail is for day hiking, picking up a section here or there, doing some out and back trips. But we haven't touched on the fact that, geez, there is almost 24 miles of an end-to-end hike that is available to folks here in the Portland area, super close to home.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that and you go, wow, that is a perfect, like, beginner's backpacking trail right there. You know, the 20-mile section between sort of the easternmost and westernmost trailheads, that's 10 miles a day. There's a campground right in the middle of the two.
Perfect.
That's a really, really perfect option. So I've thought about this. I mean, right now the campgrounds are closed. So that's not really a great option. But I've been thinking about, like, you know, once they reopen for the season in the spring starting at Elk Creek, hiking 10 miles to Jones Creek, setting up camp, hiking 10 miles to the end at Keenan Creek, get it picked up, and then you're good to go. Or even, Jim, here's a thought. if you have a friend who's into camping but not into hiking, have them drive your camping stuff to Jones Creek, set up camp, and you can just do the whole thing with a day pack.
Ooh, now that sounds like the win right there. They can bring in some great food, like food, when you're backpacking, you're weight conscious, hopefully. You're maybe not trying to bring in that, delicious big meal, some excellent dessert, maybe a can or two of your favorite beverage. That might not all fit in the backpack, if you will. But if somebody's going to drive it to the campsite, camp feast. I'm into that.
Yeah, I like that. And I talked to the Tillamook State Forest about backpacking specifically and about the option of camping on the trail itself. And they said that's something that's allowed, but they don't really advertise because there's not really resources set up on the trail for that. So you're not going to find established backcountry campsites. You're not going to find any fire rings or anything like that. I saw some places on the trail where I thought, I could set up camp here. But, I think it's probably just easier and better just to go to any of the campgrounds along the trail and just set up camp there. There's a campground at Elk Creek and at Jones Creek in the middle and at the other end at Keenan Creek. So you've got options on either end and in the middle to camp. You might as well just do that.
That sounds golden. Much better option. You could also, I suppose, if you wanted to be quite ambitious, you could do this simply as an end-to-end hike, as long as, say, you have a car shuttle, someone who's maybe dropped the car off there for you, someone who's going to pick you up. You've, figured out some way to get your car to the end of the trail. Or you're doing a hike and bike situation where you've stashed a bike at the other end and you're going to, do a little multi-sport day, a big day, mind you, and bike back to your car in the first place. So lots of options for those who want to have what I would classify as a little bit more of a mega outing on the Wilson River Trail here.
Yeah. And that people talk about the car shuttle as a way to do some of these section hiking as well. Instead of doing an out and back, 12-mile day, putting a car at either trailhead and doing a 6-mile day. That's an option I think that a lot of people talk about. I'm not super keen on it though, just to say, just because, especially if you're going on the weekends, the trailheads are crowded as it is. It's kind of a tough look to be storing your extra car at an overcrowded trailhead. You know what I mean? If you're going like on a Wednesday, trailheads are empty as it is, hey, go for it. But I think that's just something to be considerate about when you're thinking about doing that sort of thing.
That's fair. The other option that we haven't discussed, which I've heard of folks doing before, is find some friends who want to hike in the opposite direction, who you feel comfortable driving their vehicle, they feel comfortable driving yours, and do a little key swap. Meet halfway. It's one trail. Right. You're going to hit each other eventually, barring any, route finding confusion, if you will, and swap keys, drive out of there and pick a time to meet later on. So you got options if you want to do the whole thing in one go. That, of course, is not to mention folks who are going really light and are going to do this as a trail run, which is something that I have eyed, perhaps for a day when I'm feeling, quite frankly, a lot more confident in my ability to move throughout that kind of terrain. But a boy can dream, can't he?
That's right. And Jim, we've talked a lot about hiking, about going on foot in this trail. We should mention that there are two other options for exploring the trail. Mountain biking is probably one of the most popular alternate options. I did not see any mountain bikers out there myself, but the forest officials told me that this is a spot where people do mountain bike. It sounds like the western part of the trail is a little bit better for it. As you get up into sort of the mountains on the eastern side, closer to Kings Mountain and Elk Mountain, the trail's a little less stable, a little more narrow. There's a lot of like really big drop-offs that I would feel a little iffy on a mountain bike. Just something to consider before going out there on a bike. And another option is horseback riding, which is allowed on part of the trail, though forest officials told me this is really not a very popular horseback riding trail. People ride horses in lots of places around Oregon. This is one that they just don't do it very often at all. So I wouldn't be worried about running into horses out there. I, again, did not see any horses while I was out there, or let alone any people at all for most of my experience.
No people, no horses, no bikes, no
right.
people on horses or bikes, nothing of the sort.
Just me and the trees.
You and the trees and 3 other parties throughout your 4 hikes on Wednesdays. So not bad at all. And Jamie, we haven't talked at all about the fact, this is almost 24 miles at this given point, but extensions are planned for the future of this trail. What's up with that?
Yeah, so the original dream of the Wilson River Trail was to run end to end throughout the Tillamook State Forest. So it's envisioned to be this even longer distance hiking trail. And this originally started about 1998, 1999 when they first started building this trail. And so they're still kind of in the process of trying to extend it out little by little. So originally it was 20 miles, and they just recently added that 3-mile section just east of Elk Creek. And, the forest officials told me they're eyeing some plans for the near future of extending it even farther to the east. They were not ready to share any public details about that. But that is something they're looking to continue to extend. So folks who maybe if you go out and hike this whole thing, wait a couple of years and there might be even more for you to hike.
I love to hear that, Jamie. Always excited to hear about more trails being built. And just giving us more options for, reasonably easy access here in the beautiful outdoors in Oregon. So, folks, until next time here on the show, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at Peak Northwest, and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel. Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast and our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details, of course, at OregonLive.com/pod support. This episode of the show was produced by me, Jim Ryan, alongside Jamie Hale and Andrew Thien.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.